Today's guest is Sarah Valeri, who is a professional decluttering and organization coach of Hello Clutter. She started her business in 2019 as a way to help people transform their homes into a space where they can actually rest. And Sarah says, "Hello to your clutter, so you can say goodbye to it." And her passion is to remove the excess from your home and subsequently from your life so that you can feel free. So, Sarah, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. And definitely, when I was looking at what you do and like the whole aspect of like decluttering, there's kind of like two things that came into mind, right? Like one was kind of what we do like on the podcast and on my coaching, which is like your business is a reflection of like what's going on inside. So they're going to be like reflective of each other. So the mess you see in your business is oftentimes the mess you see internally. So, and you're welcome to obviously comment on this, but like I feel like that's also what happens with like the clutter in our lives and like the mess. And then Marie Kondo was the other one because I actually enjoyed watching that show as well. So I'd love for you to kind of break that down for us, comment, and then
Yeah.
put some context to it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that you said that. Some of the weirdest advice I'd ever been given was before you hire someone like on something like this in a coaching or organization standpoint, ask to see their bedroom because the way that we present our spaces says a lot about us and what's going on mentally. So when we have mental clutter, it usually shows up as physical clutter in our space. And then other way around, when we have a lot of physical clutter, it starts to bog us down and give us those mental blocks as well. So I'm sure there's something even for me to break down on that within my own space too. But yeah, I think it's all connected. And I get the Marie Kondo a lot. I get home edit a lot, which I'm very grateful for those because they kind of give some more light into what I do because it's not as common of a profession. It wasn't something I really knew was an option when I was growing up.
100%. So how is it that you got into like doing what you're doing?
Funny enough, I saw Marie Kondo's show on Netflix about 3 or 4 years ago now. And I was like, hold up, people get paid to go through other people's stuff and help them let go. It's what I actually did. My husband and I's second date was I found out he was living in his apartment, like still full of boxes. And I was like, can I come over and get rid of all of the stuff you don't want and help you set it up nicely? So I found out that it was and just kind of did some research on it on my own and officially launched. I say officially because I just made a website was my way of starting in 2019 and then was fortunate enough to take my business full time last year in 2021.
Very cool. Congratulations. So it just kind of sparked from like what this thing that I enjoy doing, like people actually like pay money to like do this. So
Yeah.
that's super cool. So then given the fact that you've had, a very good transition going from like, okay, this is an idea to like a year later, I can actually like make a living out of it.
Mhm.
What's going on in your business right now that kind of brought you here today?
So much. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I have and that it's been sustainable enough so far for me. But I'm looking to expand my family, thinking about having children, and also my business is my baby. So both two new things and something that I haven't done before. And I definitely I like to control the things that are around me. And the idea of either taking a step back so I can focus on my family, or the idea of bringing someone in new who would be I could train. I think trust and letting that part of my business go and entrusting my brand and what I've built into someone else. That's all very, very scary. So I know I have a lot of mental blocks that it's time to work through.
Got it. And as far as like the business problem itself, like how would you define it in your own words?
I think that I'm stuck because I'm not willing to let go of some of like the reins that I have. So I'm kind of stuck in a not losing clients, not gaining clients. I'm kind of just where I have been.
Okay, so just to kind of dive deeper into like that sentiment of stuck, right? So
Yeah.
there's like the plateau aspect. So like right now, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's like a capacity thing. Like I am at the capacity where I'm comfortable to do the work that I'm doing. If I wanted to expand, I'd have to give the reins to somebody else. And then subsequently, if I do that, it also opens up the room for more time for my own family. But then also I have to give more control up in order to do that. So like that's the kind of ceiling for the business. Is that accurate?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So in that case, you're pretty self-aware in the sense of like, okay, so it's my own control bit. So this is my baby. I need to be the one that's, in charge of doing the things. My clients rely on me. So you're pretty self-aware of like, okay, what's the inner narrative that is kind of causing this?
Mhm.
What do you think is the gap between the self-awareness of all of this and then the acting on it to resolve it?
I think exactly that. I'm sure there's a better word for it too, but just the fear of letting go. I think it's which is so funny for me to say that because I coach people on letting go of their stuff every day. So me of letting go of this control, but being able to let that go and not fear failure to come, because I think part of it is entrusting, finding the right person and entrusting someone of being able to take part of this over from me. But also I think I tend to do more of like the self-deprecation and beating myself up. I have very high expectations of myself, so fear of not doing it well and not giving someone else the tools they need to succeed.
Got it. So given what you said, right? Like I ironically coach people to let go of. If you were your own coach, what would you tell yourself?
Like, do it. Why have you not posted? Because I know I've gotten so many DMs from sweet women in the area who are like, hey, if you need an assistant, I'm interested. And so I have these people. I know the second that I post about it, people are going to say, hey, I'm interested. So do it.
Perfect. So same scenario then.
Mhm.
If you were your own coach, because I'm sure the resistance to letting go comes up when you work with people like,
Mhm.
this watch that, is like not working. I have a hard time letting it go, or whatever the actual narrative is for the individual. How do you coach them through actually letting go?
Yeah, break it down and figure out what it is that the attachment is and how we can sever that attachment, or you know if maybe it is they're not ready to let it go, like letting them know that it's okay as well. But like digging down into the why, like if it were to spontaneously combust, would you feel better than you do, or would you feel sad that it's gone?
Perfect.
Yeah.
So in that case, when you're looking at letting go of the control of some of the business or inviting somebody in, how would you coach your own resistance to that?
This is where I think I get a block of, I see it in two different paths and it goes great and my business flourishes and it's amazing. And then I see crash and burn.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So no middle ground, right? It's either a
Yeah.
roaring success or an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Okay. And hypothetically, what would the middle ground look like?
Uh, Maybe we kind of ride where we are, but I get a little bit of help, a little bit of relief, or it doesn't work out with whoever I hire and I have to, seek out someone else.
Okay.
Which sounds a
And
lot more reasonable.
sure does. Yeah. I would definitely agree with you. Um, so where else in your life do you have a hard time letting go of control?
Oh, and almost everything. It's something this whole past year I've really been working on, which is where I think the self awareness comes from, because I recognize it in how things are around my home. I recognize it like with my friendships and like my family relationships. I it's like that expectation of I want things to go a certain way. And so I try to control it into that. And I either feel really happy when they go that way, or I feel frustrated and disappointed when it doesn't.
So when you are controlling things, you also have a lot more control of the experience of the outcome and the other aspects of that.
Mhm. Or
Okay.
at least I like to think that I do. But I I'm learning I don't, but yes. I do.
Okay. So what's so dangerous about surrendering?
I think I've always thought that if you have a plan, that's how you can be successful. Like I started my business with a plan and I did the things that, other people told me, hey, check these boxes and you're going to be fine. And it's gotten me to this point. But now I'm seeing that there are some tasks, like the administrative things, yes. But when it comes to really emotionally and being able to be vulnerable, I know I can grow so much more if I can kick into that.
So what does the vulnerability have to do with, like, say, creating a plan or like a, you know, task list or like procedures like SOPs and things like that? So what does vulnerability have to do with that?
I don't think it does, but I think the vulnerability is the piece that I'm lacking. I'm really good at integrating. I'm really good at you tell me what to do and I will figure it out. But it's the things that are more creative and the things that are more outside of my little box of comfort. Those are the things that scare me. And those are the things I won't jump in until like somebody else says, like, hey, do this. And they'll be like, oh, okay, got
Got it. Okay. So define vulnerability more for me in the context that you use it, right? Because when I hear vulnerability, I don't hear it in what you're describing, right?
it.
So
Okay.
like whether it's in like the relationship of an employee where, you have to manage them, you set the criteria for what's effective, what isn't, all of those things. Sure, is your vulnerability into letting go? 100%. So I just want to know, like, is that the definition for you, or like how do you define vulnerability in that context?
Yeah, I think what you said, so like the letting someone in, or I guess it's opening my business for someone else to be able to see those things too, of like what I'm doing on the back end. And like, I think just being like, hey, here's everything that I have. I think I try to keep that in. And the idea of someone coming in to be able to see that and help support me, while I know that that will be probably a good thing, that's the vulnerability that scares me.
Got it. So would it be accurate to say it kind of feels invasive?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you think of that, like, invasion into your business, right? Like I'm letting somebody in, this is vulnerable because now they can see all the inner working pieces. I have to let them into all the back end stuff, the front end stuff. Like, they now have access to who it is that I am as expressed to this baby of the business.
hmm
How does that feel in your body?
I mean, that it like makes me get defensive of oof, no, but I there's a small glimmer of that sounds great of like someone to help me, because I know I give myself those blocks a lot of if I can't think of it on my own, I know there's things that I'm missing that I could be serving other people way better, and maybe someone else's perspective can help me dive in on those and grow my business and also like grow my clientele
Got it.
and help them.
So it's like that split energy of, like,
Yeah.
there's a sense of relief there because it's a support that I know I need, but then there's also this sense of constriction around it. Like, let's
Mhm.
shrink that part as small as possible so that I don't dive into it. So would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And the original question was kind of like, what does that feel like in your body? So what are the physical sensations you feel when you think about the invasiveness of bringing somebody into your space in that vulnerable
My
way?
palms are sweaty if that starts with one.
Okay.
So I'm nervous. Um, that and I can like feel my shoulders starting to go up a little bit too. So there's a lot of tension.
Okay, so you got the tension in the shoulders, you got the sweaty palms. So it's a very visceral kind of, oh crap, like this is like panic type situation. Yes, is
Yeah.
that accurate? Okay.
Mhm.
So if you were to tune into that, so the sweaty palms, the tension in the shoulders, and imagine that that tension could speak, what would it want to say?
Let go. Yeah.
Let go of what?
Your fear of let go of that tension. Like let things happen.
Okay. So if you were to let go of that tension right now, could you do that?
I think so.
Would you be open to trying?
Yes.
Okay. So why not try just so deep breath in and imagine you breathing into the tension of your shoulders. So I want you to take a deep breath in, breathe into that, and like a really nice, deep, like solid sigh. I want you to do that for 3 times. So let me know how that feels as you do it. And if you need to like make a nice audible, like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you're welcome to do that as well.
My palms got sweatier, but my shoulders feel better.
Okay.
Hmm.
So tune into the sweatier bits on the palms.
Hmm.
Okay. If they could speak, is there something that they would like to say?
I feel like that's like my relief. It's like my tension in my shoulders is me holding on. And when I let that go, it's like the sweat leaving my palms is like the relief from like it's like, okay, great, the tension's gone.
Got it. So that's the releasing of the tension of like, okay, I don't
Mhm.
necessarily need to be afraid of this. I can kind of let it go.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the other part you had mentioned quite a bit is this kind of self-deprecation, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
always kind of putting these high standards on myself. I'm always, doing everything that needs to be done to make sure that everything is as perfect as possible. Well, number one, is that accurate as far as your experience in the self-deprecation?
Yes.
Okay. And how far back does that go?
Oh, I'm sure it's all the way through my childhood. Enneagram, like number one, all the way.
Okay.
That's me. Hmm.
Got it. So where did that play out in childhood?
I think I probably felt um, like I wanted to. I was the only like in my family. Everyone was always running late, so I had like a big thing of wanting to be on time for everything. Um, so those were the things that I could control, and it's where I started to have high expectations of people being on time or for things to be in a certain place. That's what would bring me relief.
And what was relieving about, so everybody around you, I'm assuming including the adults, were always late.
Hmm.
You found some semblance of safety of not being late and trying to like control that.
Hmm.
So what was the relief for you to be like on time in those instances?
I think people would know that I was reliable. It doesn't like it felt like um, yeah, unstructured and like things wouldn't run smoothly. But when I could be on time, like um, yeah, I think reliability is a good word for it.
And were you reliable to the adults in your life or to yourself?
Probably more to myself.
Okay. And was that a way for you to kind of find calmness or order within the chaos
Hmm.
of everybody else?
Yeah.
Okay. So would it be safe to say that in that space, the conclusion was I'm reliable to like depend on myself. People around me just create chaos.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
I see where you're going with it, and it's so good.
What's coming up for you there?
Like I'm the only one who's reliable, so to pass over things to my like a potential associate is like they're gonna drop the ball.
Right,
Mm.
because it seems like the adults in your life at the time where they were supposed to be, and I'm not saying this is a judgment, but just as a general thing, when the expectation was that they're going to be the dependable ones that give me structure, give me a sense of safety, give me a sense of order.
Mhm.
All I got from them was the opposite. I did not feel safe in the space of other people who were supposed to be people that I should be able to defend on. So I took on a
Mhm.
lot of responsibility and control in an age that probably wasn't necessary, or at least necessary to the degree that I did it, because that's where I found and created my own order.
Mhm.
So what's coming up for you as I reflect that back?
just like screaming yes in the back of my brain, and also just like always a surprise. Like I like to think I know myself pretty well, but I never would have put like something as small as punctuality and me controlling my business together.
Yeah, that's usually
Mhm.
how these things tend to play out. So
Yeah.
good for you for being open-minded enough to take that in, right? Because it really comes down to that invasive nature, right? As soon as you said, okay, I feel vulnerable in the structuring of other people needing to be in my space, it's
Mhm.
invasive. Like something being invasive is a very threatening type of wording. It's almost like a threatening emotion. There is something that's fundamentally unsafe about
Mhm.
somebody invading your space, right? It's
Mhm.
not like somebody can enter my house, but that's not being invaded. But if they
Mhm.
enter when I don't want them to be here, then it's invasive,
Right.
right? So when you're saying there's this feeling of invasiveness to the thought that I'm going to take people into my business, into my baby,
Mhm.
right? That's reflective of, well, I can't depend on people that are supposed to be dependable.
Mhm.
Therefore, this is a scary, unsafe situation that historically has never worked out well for me,
Mhm.
right? So you see how that then plays into the business ceiling that you're experiencing right now
Yeah. Mhm.
and what's coming up for you as I share that.
The word trust, I never would have thought that I had like a trust problem. Um, I feel like I trust people easily, but maybe it's just more surface level than I thought. And when I, do something a little bit more intense or a little more um, something that does require more vulnerability, then I have more walls than I thought.
Sure. And
Mhm.
would it be trust of other people or trust of yourself in the presence of other people?
I think trust of myself. I mean, I like to believe that people are inherently good and that they will communicate with you and they will tell you what is they are or are not capable of. Uh, so I think I'm putting unfair assumptions on this invisible person who doesn't exist yet, but I'm assuming will come into my life soon.
100%. And I think that the important part here to distinguish and kind of add the nuance to it is like the adult you can trust the adult version of yourself to make a decision, make a detour, make a fix, make a tweak about taking somebody in and trusting them with the business, right?
Mhm.
Or with part of the business. It is the young version of you, right? The kind of implicit one that's in many ways running the show because it's triggering that fear response. She doesn't have the option of self-trust, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're a child and the world around you is perceived to be chaotic, whether it was objectively chaotic or not, that's secondary, but it's perceived to be chaotic. And the only way that I can find order and safety is if I take the control and reins in what needs to be done. You fundamentally can't trust other people because you're not in a position to choose other people, right? Like
Mhm.
you are with the family that you're at, and that's going to be your world for the foreseeable future,
Mhm.
right? So this is where the odds come in now, where it's like, oh, well, I can't trust other people. No, it's the healing of that part of you that needed this thing to, like, I'm gonna say survive, but really it's to just walk through the world.
Mhm.
That's the part of you that is still stuck in, like, I can't trust other people, but it's really integrating and healing that, kind of like nurturing and soothing that you don't need to be this way. You've built up a great skill set, and it's good. It got you here, but I need to integrate that into the fact that I got this now. I can support you. The adult version of me can actually guide the way through here. Figure it out, knowing that it's not going to be smooth sailing every single time. Like, there are going to be times where you're going to be angry at your, employees. You're going to think they did something wrong, or you did something wrong, and vice versa. Like, that's a normal part of having a team, but it's the self-trust of the adult you to handle it versus the younger you to, like, oh, this is dangerous. So does that Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So again, anything else that comes up for you as I reflect that back?
I don't think so. My hands stop sweating, so that makes me feel good.
Okay. And what's the experience like internally? Like, what do you feel now?
I I have a lot more confidence in myself. I'm not little girl Sarah. I'm adult woman Sarah who has been through a lot and who can do things that are difficult. So yeah, confidence is good.
Much better than fear. So kudos to you
Yeah.
for whatever that was, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, going from fear to confidence is not a small feat. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So in that case, does this feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding?
No, I think it feels good. I think now getting over that hump is the easy thing, in my opinion. And now it's like the logistical part, which I know that there's plenty of people who can help me with the logistic part, right? Like the back end, here's how you hire someone. So now getting to that point and saying yes to that doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Beautiful. Well, in
Mhm.
that case, why don't you just close us off and kind of summarize in your own words, what was your experience coming into this, and where were you at, and then your experience and takeaways and highlights going through it.
Yeah. I think I started off today in the past few weeks feeling, you know, like in a plateau or feeling stuck in knowing it's time to expand my business and allow someone in. And doing that seemed way too scary. So I understand now that trying to control every situation or trying to or putting on expectations to someone or um, assuming the worst in people is not going to get me to flourish and inviting future employees into my business either. So having a trusting heart and being open and communicating what I need and being vulnerable with where things are will allow that person to do a better job than I assumed before.
100%, and that's a beautiful way to summarize it. So thank you very much for that. And then just to close us off, to let everybody know where they can find you, who's the best person to find you. Floor is yours for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much on every platform, Hello Clutter. On Instagram, it's hello.clutter. But you can find me there. I do in-person and virtual organizing as well. So even if you don't live in the Raleigh area, I can still help out.
Beautiful. Well, include all those in the show notes. But Sarah, thank you very much for coming on. And for everybody else listening, you can stay tuned for the wrap up, and we'll see you for the next one.